What's up, castaways? Welcome back to another Friday video. So I've been thinking a lot about the idea of falling into a habit as a producer or a sound designer. What I mean by that is I think that over time, as we get more experience with making music, we start to gravitate towards similar sounds, similar musical ideas, regardless of what the instrument we're using is. Now today, I wanted to show you guys how to make the sound that I probably use on every single one of my tracks, at least somewhere. Now this sound is super simple to make, but I think it does a great job at conveying human emotion and feeling through a synthesizer. Now I'm going to show you guys today how to make this sound on the Novation Summit, but this sound can be made on any polyphonic subtractive synthesizer. Alright guys, final note here, we're just about at 10,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone for me, so please remember to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, whatever you can do to help my channel grow if you find value in this video. I really appreciate it. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so like I mentioned, you can do this sound on virtually any polyphonic synthesizer, whether it's analog, digital, hardware, software, whatever, as long as it has the following ingredients: a triangle wave, a low-pass filter that is 12 dB per octave, 2 envelopes, 1 LFO, reverb, and delay. Alright, that's all we're going to need. It's a really simple sound, but hopefully by the end of it, you guys are going to see how effective this is and how beautiful this sound is and why I use it on almost all of my songs, at least somewhere. Alright, so we're going to start by initializing a preset, which I've already got here. Sounds like a saw wave. So we're going to go ahead and change our oscillator type to a triangle wave. Now, the reason why we're using a triangle wave for this sound is because it's a pretty gentle sound. And triangle waves, they have a lot less top end, a lot less energy, a lot less grit than saw waves or square waves. However, we don't want to use a sine wave, which has absolutely no top end at all, because we still want to have some form of grit, a little bit of presence that will help cut through the mix and give our sound a little bit of character. So triangle wave is an awesome in-between for chill sounds versus a saw wave, which is too much, or a sine wave, which is too little. Okay, so next up, we're going to jump to our filter section. Now, I mentioned at the outset of the video that we're going to be using a 12 dB per octave filter, which is a little bit more rare than a traditional 24 dB per octave filter that is found on a lot of synths. Now, the reason why we're going to use a 12 dB per octave filter and not a 24 dB per octave filter is because the triangle wave already doesn't have much top end. So we can get away with a smoother filter that cuts out less of the top end because there's already not that much there. This is all about bringing in that subtle top end grit that'll really help give our sound character and make it stand out. All right, so we've got our triangle wave going through a 12 dB per octave filter at close to 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock cutoff. Next up, we're going to make a simple pluck shape on our envelope. Now, first, we're going to use the amp envelope. We're going to bring attack all the way down. We're going to bring decay very close to the bottom. And then we're going to bring sustain down a fair amount too. The reason for that is we're essentially simulating natural compression by having a very short decay phase, which creates a nice transient, and then having the sustain level not be close to the very top. Now that sounds really nice because it's emphasizing the pluckiness of our sound without using any compression yet. All right, for release, we're going to bring the release way up so that the sounds ring out over each other, but not so much that it creates a buildup of frequencies that don't die out fast enough. So you really got to find the sweet spot where you can play chords and keys and not have to worry about the sound fading out too quickly, but you can also change chords and not have to worry about a bunch of unnecessary frequencies building up. Okay, awesome. Now moving on to the mod envelope. So we're going to do a very similar shape, but with a longer decay. So envelope depth at about let's say 1/3 to 1/2, depending on your synth. Decay, probably around halfway. Sustain, pretty close to the bottom. And release way up. Now, here on the Summit, by turning down the sustain, we've lost a bit of volume, so I'm going to bring back in some drive. But don't worry if your synth doesn't have drive, you can just adjust this with the master output or extra plugins later. All right, so next up, we're going to use velocity to control how much of our sound gets affected by the filter envelope, depending on how hard we press the keys. This is a classic trick in synthesis that's going to give our sound more emotion, more dynamic feeling, and more humanity. Here in the Summit, it's very simple to assign this, but your synth should have any sort of knob or parameter that says velocity, mod, depth, envelope. It's already sounding very beautiful right here. Very, very nice. All right, next up, we're going to add probably my favorite part of this sound, which is why I use it so often. We're going to use an LFO to add pitch modulation subtly to create a human and imperfect, slightly out of tune feeling. Now on the Summit, this is very easily done here. There's an LFO2 to pitch pre-modulated section right here. So we're going to go ahead and turn that up. Now, obviously, that sounds pretty terrible right now. It's much too fast. So we're going to turn the rate down to a sweet spot where it's not so slow that you don't really notice it happening, but it's not so fast that you can easily identify when the pattern repeats. Bring it back down. There we go. That's sounding beautiful. You can already kind of hear that sound. It immediately has that beautiful emotional feeling to it. Okay, cool. We're getting close to the end. Now, the final thing here would be reverb and delay. But before we do, I'm going to show you guys a couple of optional steps if your synth has this and if you want to add a little bit more character. First one, adding a bit of noise. This can add a really, really beautiful side to your sound that makes it a little bit more dirty and lo-fi. Bonus points if you high pass filter the noise to make it less bassy. So beautiful. And then the final bonus tip here is if you want to add some distortion. Now, this one I don't use very often, but sometimes it can really add some nice harmonics. Make it sound more like an electric piano. But for today, we're not going to add any noise or distortion. We're going to keep it simple. So for the final step here, we're going to add some delay and reverb. All right, so for my delay, I like to have it pretty subtle. I usually use a delay that is pretty low in the mix at a half note or quarter note BPM synced to my track. Now finally, we're going to take a reverb. Now, this is where the magic of the sound really happens. We're going to turn up the time on the reverb. Turn up the mix. And listen to that. Now, what's cool about adding reverb is I find when you add reverb, it sort of gels the sound together pretty nicely, so you're able to actually add a bit more of that lovely pitch modulation that we did before. So let's do that. All right, so take a listen now that I've added that extra pitch modulation. That is beautiful, and now you have your sound. Alright guys, that brings this video to a close. I hope you found some value in that tutorial, and if you did, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, as well as consider checking out my Patreon if you want to support this channel for as low as $1.50 per month. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your week.